Then let's go ahead without further ado. So, good afternoon and evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us from your respective parts of the world. This is a collaboration between the Oxford Society for International Development and Youth Policy Forum, which is based in Bangladesh. I'm 𝐄𝐦𝐻𝐨𝐻𝐿, I'm very pleased to be your moderator for today's event, and I am joined by the wonderful team from Youth Policy Forum. Specifically, today we have with us Minhaj and Shamila. Both of them have been with the team since its very conception and have nurtured it to grow into the massive success that it is today. For those of you who don't know, Youth Policy Forum, or YPF, is a platform for young Bangladeshi people from all over the world who have interest in nation building, state crafting, and want to contribute through effective policy formulation and implementation to the government and the country. By creating a pool of young intellectual minds, YPF intends to establish a great support system that will help the government, non-government, and global, as well as state-level policymakers to formulate and adopt more inclusive policies. Engaging youth in policy formation is vital to ensuring we create a generation that is proactive, passionate, and well-equipped to take on the biggest policy challenges faced by the world. This is why OxSID, or the Oxford Society for International Development, is very excited to have YPF with us today, given how much it has pioneered youth policy engagement in Bangladesh. So without further ado, let's start with questions from my end, and towards the end, if the audience has questions, you are welcome to bring them up once we're done with our Q&A session here. So my first question, to establish some context, can you tell us about the founding origins of Youth Policy Forum and what the organization intends to do?
Sure. Thank you, Samanita and OxSID, for inviting us in this amazing conversation. So if I may answer that, it was almost 5 years ago on 11th April 2018, when a young Bangladeshi posted on Facebook asking a simple question, that is it possible to set up a small group of young men and women to discuss policy issues relevant to Bangladesh? And that young man was Mr. Abir Hassan, then in his late 20s and currently pursuing his PhD at the University of Oxford. At Oxford's famed Blavatnik School of Government, he was taught by top-notch professors and stimulated by fellow students from across the globe, some of whom were already experienced in policy work. So he came to appreciate the importance of public policy and how a single act of government policy can change the lives of millions of people. The change can be enormously positive if policies are well conceived and properly implemented. So we started off as a Facebook group back then with the response we received from people, realizing the need for people to have a civic and safe space where they can discuss policies. And as you know, Bangladeshis love talking about politics a lot, but a majority of the conversations tend to become quite emotionally charged and attacking in nature, and the conversation goes nowhere. So we wanted to bring policies back to politics and encourage people to focus on evidence-based policy discussions, which are objective and backed by data. And our core objective is to bridge the gap between youth and policymakers. And we do that by organizing policy dialogues, doing research and advocacy in multiple policy areas. And the motto we follow in all that we do is people, policy, and progress.
Thank you so much. I think it's incredible that this massively successful organization began with a Facebook page and has evolved into such a mature organization. Since you've said that you want to breach the gap between youth and policy formation, to follow up on that, what do you think are the key barriers impeding youth policy engagement in Bangladesh today, and how does YPF try to address those barriers?
Hello, if I may answer that. My name is Minhaj Choudhury, and I work as the communications lead for Youth Policy Forum. And it's really lovely to be here, and thanks for inviting us. So if I answer that question, so there are actually multiple or like multi-dimensional barriers engaging youth in the world of policy making. So if you think about it, on one side, there is very few institutional mechanisms through which a youth can impact in the policy arena in Bangladesh. And on the other hand, what happened is, as the youth saw that their voices have less meaning in the system, gradually over time, the youth become less interested in politics or policies. So we used to say a few years back on Facebook, like a lot of Bangladeshis used to put this line on their profile, that is, I hate politics. Their political view is I hate politics. So that was a big thing, and we cannot blame the youth, only for that, because they saw that their voices often do not have a meaning in the system. So that created that problem, and YPF is trying to address this challenge on both sides. On one side, it is trying to create a more informed youth base who are interested on policy issues, who know how to engage in policy debate in a very civic manner. On the other hand, YPF is also trying to open up channels through which youth can give proper feedback. So this is how YPF is trying to bridge the gap that exists in Bangladesh in the world of policymaking.
Thank you. That is exceptional. I really respect that you're doing that and you're trying to make politics less of an impenetrable space for the youth. Building this organization must have taken a lot of effort. So my next question is, what did it take to build the community at Youth Policy Forum? Can you tell us about your team, how the trajectory of the team has evolved, and why the organization has become so successful? What is the major reason for its success?
Yeah, so as Minhaj mentioned that young people were always at the center of YPF, and YPF has never been a formal organization. The people who have joined in the beginning, including us as well, we didn't join by submitting CVs or with reference letters and all that. We were actually reached out by our founder, Mr. Abir Hassan, personally, who simply texted us that if you want to join this community, and we did. And this informality, I would say, has been the biggest assets of YPF. As a youth organization, we were not quite accustomed to formalities that often comes with these sort of high-level policy talks or organizations. And as young people, we are more comfortable with informal interactions, which are powerful as well. So when we built this community, we didn't have the idea to be a formal organization with suit and tie people. We built this community with a simple aim, that is creating a shared space for the young people, and that's all. And when we come with such a simple purpose, which is a wanted purpose as well, which young person wouldn't want to get a shared space, right? So it becomes very easy like this to find the best kind of people who are thinking just like you, who are thinking about the country and want to do more for the country. And you have them attracted to YPF. And when you have something that starts off like this, something so intimate and personal, I would say, and yet so simple, no matter how much we have scaled up and no matter how much big we have become, working with high-profile stakeholders every day, it still comes back to you. When you look at our Facebook group, which is just a forum for people to discuss policy issues, the informality we have is still there at the heart of our discussions, no matter who we are talking to. For example, we have several members of parliaments who also use Facebook just like we do. And suppose they post a question asking for a youth perspective on some issue, and people answer candidly, and there you have a conversation right there. And often we feel like these kind of interactions have more impact than a formal structured advocacy campaign, simply because we've cut down the middleman and we have made it very simple, a conversation between two people. So this notion of creating a tailor-made space for a very specific group of people, those who want a space like this and people who believe in Bangladesh, that has been instrumental to our success. Also, optimism was a crucial part of YPF's success. So we are not in a perfect world and we have so many difficulties and challenges, but all our members are characterized and defined by their unbridled optimism, I'd say, that they can make the space better and that they can make this current society better. And they come with this optimism to the YPF team. And they're optimistic about our future as a team, and that has been a big reason for our success, because that has enabled them to be visionaries and to own their work and create their own work here.
Thank you. I think the ethos of YPF is remarkable, the idea of creating a free, accessible, almost democratized space. And as someone who's on the editorial team, I am always in awe of how passionate the team is. It really does thrive off of the love and enthusiasm of its team, and it's been wonderful to witness that. again, YPF has achieved such incredible things. It started off as such a small idea, but with the love and the commitment of your team, it's evolved into this really successful organization that thrives off of these conversations that you've mentioned. One of the prides of YPF actually is its fellowship program. So I was hoping if you could elaborate on how the fellowship program is designed and what are some of its achievements? What does it try to do?
Yeah, of course. So before discussing the fellowship initiatives, it'd be better if I give some context about the structure and the people who make up YPF. Like Shamaila brilliantly shared how and what values they hold. So if I talk about the numbers, so in YPF, we have around 200 young people who are mostly students from all the level, from high school to PhD students, and also young professionals who are working in different policy areas. So we work on 12 policy areas from healthcare to education. And these 200 people work in any of these policy areas. We call them policy associates. So from those policy associates, we have a core team of nearly 100 members. So you can see like these 200 people mostly made up of young students. They're very much passionate and also talented. But the question comes like, how do we make sure the quality? Because quality is also very important when you are taking a policy reform to a policymaker. They will definitely look into the quality, not only the enthusiasm. So in that context, fellowship comes up. So fellowship has multi-dimensional or like different values. So one big reason of fellowship was to have guidance or mentor to these young people. So who are these fellows? So fellows are mostly people who have 5 to 15 years of experience in a particular policy area. So we gave the first fellowship in 2021. And last year in 2022, we also awarded fellowship to 50 more fellows. So together we have 150 fellows right now. So these fellows operate as a mentor to these young people. They guide their work, they co-author articles, they co-author policy briefs, engage in dialogue, so on. And another aim was fellowship was that there are a lot of Bangladeshis, like I think not only Bangladesh, many other countries can relate to it, that a lot of their people are spread out all across the world. They're doing amazing work in different countries, but those people also want to contribute to their country back home. So fellowship wanted to connect these people and give them a platform so that they can contribute for their Bangladesh, as we say, for a Bangladesh better served. So through fellowship, that's how like the 150 amazing Bangladeshis are now contributing for Bangladesh. And in the future, we want to expand it even more. And just one point is that initially it was only Bangladeshis, but later on we added 3 non-Bangladeshi fellows who has extensive research experience in Bangladesh. Because like it's for the country, so they were also awarded the fellowship. So this is how the fellowship operates and going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a very thorough answer. Again, I love the mentoring aspect of the fellowship program and how you're expanding who can be a fellow. So in addition to the fellowship program, which is wonderful and really focuses on trying to cultivate the talent of the youth, YPF has also collaborated with TikTok and the British High Commission, as well as several other luminaries and big organizations. So I wanted to ask, what potential and possibility lies in leveraging the support of large social media and government organizations in partnership with humanitarian organizations like YPF?
Thank you. So yeah, those were 2 very different and amazing projects we did. With ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, we carried out a year-long campaign on digital literacy with the tagline of Safe Internet and Safe Youth. So there we conducted workshops in 10 different universities of Bangladesh, in and outside of Dhaka. And we organized some policy competitions and received tremendous response from the participants. And with our partnership with the British High Commission and Commonwealth jointly, we focused on the role of youth in climate action, where we produced interesting infographics in Bangla. We produced bite-sized TikTok videos on climate change, which was a new arena of climate advocacy. And we did field researches in the underrated climate vulnerable regions of Bangladesh, and all of which ended with a fruitful dissemination event with the diverse stakeholders such as the government, development agencies, private sector, and so on. And as for all partnerships of YPF, being the head of partnership at YPF, I would say that we only partner with organizations who echo our vision. And we had been doing our own initiatives. And I'm very proud to say that all external partnerships we have had till now, we didn't even have to reach out ourselves. And organizations like UNDP, BRAC, the British High Commission knocked us after observing the good work we were doing already. So leveraging the support of social media and government and non-government organizations have been working quite well for us.
That's wonderful. Minhaj, did you have something you wanted to say? You put your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to say like a little thing, like in cases of different organizations, what we see, like when they do the partnership, like they often have to compromise few of the things. So we were very much aware of that. So that's why we have been very much, critical about the partnerships we do. And whatever partnership we did, we always did on our own terms. And what we saw that it's not just, a branding campaign or an awareness campaign. It's something has tangible value. So we always, and it also connects with our aim or the work. So that's something we always kept in mind. And that's why and how maybe some of our partnerships have been really good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, both of you. I think it's wonderful that you're partnering with organizations that echo your vision and that it's not just about branding. The focus on tangible value, I think, is something that a lot of organizations lack. So again, this is something I really admire. So YPF has worked with wonderful organizations, big corporate organizations, and it has this very powerful network of association. So I wanted to ask, how does YPF engage people from remote areas of Bangladesh? Is the work of YPF based solely online, or is there an element of field work or in-person activities to really penetrate into the heart of Bangladesh's grassroots communities?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So as Shamaila said, like we started as a Facebook group, and for a long time we were a Facebook group. And within 2 years of our inception, there was the COVID and everything went online. So for a long time, we had majority of our activities online, but we also tried to think about that aspect, both online and offline things. So in case of the online things, since the very beginning, we didn't want our activities to be solely around Dhaka. In Bangladesh, what we see that it's a heavily centralized country, and Dhaka is the center of everything, like from education to healthcare or any kind of discussion. So the people from outside Dhaka often do not have enough opportunities. So what we tried to do is we built a grassroots network. It's made of young people. And one of the core requirements was you have to be outside of the capital. If you're inside the capital, you cannot be a part of it. And with that grassroots network, we have managed to penetrate into 28 out of 64 districts, which is almost like 50% of the districts. And we are thinking of going to all 64 districts of Bangladesh within 2 years. And there's also other elements where we try to make sure that we're reaching to the grassroots. For example, I'll give you 2 examples. First one is we do the policy course. So in case of that, we always give internet subsidies to people outside Bangladesh, outside Dhaka. So usually people outside of Dhaka do not have that much good or fast internet access till now. And so that's why we give them internet subsidies so they can attend the classes. And secondly, we have a research initiative, what we call Local Development Initiative, or LDI in short. So what we do in that initiative, we go to field. We have gone to 2 constituencies of Bangladesh, one in the north and one in the south. We go there, we do primary research, we take a young research team, and it's a completely neutral and ground reality check. We check the status of the healthcare, the education. We have managed to talk with over 1,000 people, and we even have organized town halls, which is like the common people with their MPs or UNOs, or the people who are making the decisions and calling the shots. So because these people often do not meet their UNOs or MPs in 5 years. So, and they complained or like shared their problems in very much details with us. So what we wanted to do is to give them a platform so that they can share the problems to their MPs directly. And we did 2 town halls. And what we saw that these people shared very candidly, and the constituency MP, UNO, they were like very much, UNO means Upajala Nirbahi Officer, which is the administrative officer of the Upajala sub-district. So they were very much open to the criticisms and the complaints, and they instantly tried to address it. So this is how we're trying to engage the grassroots people or the grassroots. It's not enough. There's still a lot of work to do. Still a lot of the things we do not get penetrated to the remote level, but we're trying our best, and we always keep the grassroots element in mind in all the projects we do. Thank you.
So what I gather from that is you're trying to bridge the gap in power between the people and the MP, and trying to equalize the distribution of resources. I think that's outstanding, especially considering YPF did come into fruition from a place of privilege with its Oxford conception. So I think it's wonderful that it's trying to really penetrate into the grassroots of Bangladesh, and that you're so actively trying to reach the 64 constituencies. That is incredible, truly. In addition to that, recently YPF launched 𝐄𝐦𝐩𝐽𝐻, which is a very handy acronym that stands for the Coalition for Upgrading Bangladeshi Economy. So can you explain how you've connected with different stakeholders to build 𝐄𝐦𝐻 and other initiatives you've developed to address different policy areas, please?
Yeah, so we all know that the evidence is out there, and the need and willingness is out there, from IMF to World Bank to the government of Bangladesh. All are cognizant that things need to change. And the word reform is gradually becoming a hot talking point in our country. And we believe that there's a way to address this collective magnitude of reform that we need. And the reform in question is economic upgrade. And as a country, we have been proud of, and we had been taking the advantage of, producing low-value goods so competitively. But we cannot do this forever. We need to create a Bangladesh that is able to create a high-value chain so that we can create a high value for the lives of people here. And that's the philosophy behind 𝐄𝐦𝐻. The question is how we can do this. This is not the product of some macroeconomic policy that we can advocate for. This is much deeper than that. So a collective action approach is necessary to successfully make this transition from low value to high value manufacturing. This model requires strong coordination between multiple stakeholders. And as a civil society organization, we want to play the role of an anchor. We want to create that common platform where people can talk about potential reforms and enact them together. And as we cannot work in silo for this objective. So through 𝐄𝐦𝐻, YPF aims to bring together stakeholders from multiple sectors to advance a common goal of economic diversification and upgrading by ensuring accountability and constantly driving and monitoring progress. And after launching 𝐄𝐦𝐻, which was very recent, just a few months back, we have successfully arranged dialogues with the private sector and public sector to converge their thoughts on the economic upgrading of Bangladesh. And we have been recently created a research framework to follow under this project as well. And in order to build 𝐄𝐦𝐻 and other advocacy initiatives we have, our networks of civil servants, bureaucrats from multiple ministries, and the huge pool of fellows that Min has mentioned, they have made it possible to connect with a diverse range of stakeholders to address this issue. And now that we have these actors talking, we will push them to make a change unitedly. So that's the formula that has worked in YPF for so long, actually. So it's a formula that has enabled us to get so many youth into policy. And now we want to see if this formula can work with a group of actors working side by side for Bangladesh better served. And my colleague here, Minhaj, is leading the Q project. I'd request him to add anything if he wants to add.
Shamila has beautifully addressed all of it. And it's mostly, if I put it in one line, it's Bangladesh's aim to avoid the middle income trap, which happened to like the 100 countries have made it to the middle income and status, but very few countries have passed that barrier. And if we do not work together, Bangladesh would fall into the trap like the rest of the 90% countries. But we don't want that. We have a very high aim. So that's why we created this coalition. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you elaborate on the middle income trap, please? So does that mean you get to a middle income level and then you don't go beyond that?
Yes. So I'm not from economics background, so I'll definitely not be able to explain it to the economic terms, but I can explain it in the layman terms. So it is that you can go with the certain level of economic growth. You can pass the LDC or least developed country status bracket if your average per capita income increases to a certain degree. But after you increase to that level, your level of living standard increases and many things changes. Like, for example, you lose many LDC advantages that you had for export. So, but to become, to get out of the middle income trap or like middle income bracket, you need to have the same level of growth to, pass it. But as the things change, you often do not get the same level of growth. So you just bounce back to the same level and stay there as like a flat curve. So something like that.
Thank you. That was a very clear explanation. Did not need an economics background at all. So in addition to Cube, which is trying to address economic issues in Bangladesh, some of YPF's most renowned initiatives include its public policy course and its masterclass. Can you elaborate, please, on what these are, how you've developed and built the connections for these programs, and what these programs seek to achieve?
Yes. So like one of the reasons why we were interested about this policy course and masterclass is that like in Bangladesh, policy education is very exclusive. Like there are very few universities that actually teach it, and like very few people have actually studied it. Only the people who have managed to gone out of Bangladesh, have went to great schools all around the globe, they have studied it. But the majority of the people, they didn't. But no matter how exclusive the policy education is, policy matters equally to that remote coastal village of Bangladesh to the posh area of Dhaka. So policy education is necessary for everyone. So that's with that aim in mind, we created this public policy course. And what we did, we didn't want to compromise on the quality. So in that, all the amazing Bangladeshis who have studied in Oxford's public policy school, in Harvard or other places, so they helped us and supported us here. And they created a curriculum based on those top policy schools. And they made the curriculum completely in Bangla. And after doing that, they reached out to instructors like Bangladeshis who have done that, or like Bangladeshi professors, and they taught the course in Bangla. So as it's Bangla, it has a high penetration outside of Bangladesh, and especially to the young people, it's very much easier to understand and have a 1 hour class in Bengali in our mother language. So that's how we created the public policy course. We are currently on the third course. First one was on philosophy of public policy. Second one was the economics of public policy. And the third one is currently running. It's the politics of public policy. So that's how the courses are going on. And surprisingly, like our enrollment has increased exponentially. And in the first courses, it was mostly students. in the third course, to our surprise, we like discovered that many civil servants actually enrolled in the course. And we were really surprised, and they said like they wanted to brush up the knowledge, and they have a high trust into the knowledge and the quality of YPF's classes. So they're like very interested to do that. So I think that was a big success of public policy course. That's a welcome demographic that we didn't expect, but we managed to attract. And that's how the policy course run. And masterclass is a bit different. It's like one-off classes. So we try to reach out to like the accomplished Bangladeshis or non-Bangladeshi people who have a brilliant level of experience. Like, for example, Yale professor, Dr. Mushfiq Mubarak, or Dr. Santos from LSC Growth Lab. So they have certain expertise in policy areas, like, for example, evidence in policy or like growth diagnostics. So they take 1 hour or 2 hour long classes, which is open for all. We try to make sure it's as much accessible as possible. Even when it's an in-person event, we do not take any fees, and we try to make it a class. And we have so far done around 11 master classes. So, and it was very much diverse topics, from climate negotiations to policy, evidence in policy, and so on. So this is how the masterclass is going on. We are also in the process of doing many more masterclasses with some amazing professors all over the world. It's like, like it's difficult for a Bangladeshi, like from my perspective, when I was in undergrad, it was difficult for me to actually have a class with some amazing professors abroad. So YPF is mostly trying to create that space or the scope for the Bangladeshi students.
I hadn't even considered that the language barrier made policy education even more inaccessible. I think that translation aspect is so important, and also honing in on these incredibly elite resources and making them available to everyone, and therefore democratizing education again, I think is really, really invaluable. So you have all these initiatives running. You have CUBE, you have the public policy course, you have masterclass, and the organization just seems to be getting more and more ambitious by the day. What do you envision to be the future of YPF? What directions do you see the organization going towards?
So, as you say, with all these different kind of activities, we aim to expand our footprint in all 64 districts of Bangladesh in order to facilitate policy research and sort of create that live feedback loop mechanism, and upgrading Bangladesh from all fronts with our initiatives like grassroots, local development initiative, and building policy capacity of the youth with our public policy courses. And we want youth from all across Bangladesh to be able to contribute to the actual change in policymaking through YPF. We would like to see YPF as the organization which every stakeholder relies on.
I think you're building a wonderful template for other organizations to build on. On that note of other organizations, so I am actually part of the Oxford Society for International Development. As I've mentioned, I'm the Asia Pacific Events Officer. So I'm very grateful that we had the chance to collaborate today, but it also begs a bigger question of, how do you think international development societies like ours can further YPF's mission in engaging youth within policy development?
Yes, they can definitely do it. Like, I'd like to add a few things to the previous questions on like what directions we see YPF. So another way we see YPF, like in the future, we want to see YPF as a proper feedback mechanism tool for the young people, so that they can, through YPF, have more tangible impact in the policy making. So YPF becomes the go-to organization for the policy advocacy or policy reforms. And currently, like for a youth in a very remote area, cannot share their lived experiences to the entire country, to the policymakers. But through YPF, we aim to do that in the future, like probably a very much particular, locally lived bad experience can be shared or like highlighted through YPF. And if I go to your, like the next question is how international development societies can help YPF or YPF's vision. I think there's many ways they can do it. Like, for example, one aim of YPF was always to, connect the Bangladeshi diaspora. So definitely these societies like that can connect the diaspora who are very much interested to contribute to Bangladesh through that. Because what we believe, like the contribution to your country shouldn't be only about donations or something like charitable work. Intellectual contributions can also be very fruitful, and we want and through YPF, these diaspora can contribute intellectually. And in YPF, we have talked many times about the diaspora diplomacy. Like many countries are very much strong in diaspora diplomacy. Even in 1971, during our liberation war, Bangladeshi diaspora in the UK played a big role. So in recent times, we are seeing in a global context where diaspora diplomacy is becoming increasingly important. So definitely YPF can have that, connection or build that connection through such international societies. And also another thing, a funny story I would like to share, like in 2020, when we did a budget dialogue, so we were still online only organization back then, but we are really amping up our level or quality of work. So it was COVID, and what we did, we pulled off a budget dialogue series. It was a 7-episode series where young people researched on budget, and and not only it was a discussion with experts, it's like they did the research, they made reports, and they presented the reports to the policymakers. So the policymakers was quite wowed. Like they usually go to talk shows and they talk and people listen. There they came here and they saw like people are very much prepared. So we did this 7-episode budget dialogue, and in Bangladesh, usually budget dialogues are organized by very veteran CS organizations, not much youth. So after we did that in 2020, it got the attention of many foreign students or foreign student societies. So people from Nepal and Sri Lanka reached out to us and they said like, hey, we wanted to do something like YPF in our country. So I think YPF can impact there too. Like we always believe the knowledge that we create is very much open source. Oftentimes the tools we create, we believe in the continuation of it. Even if we are not continuing it, we don't have the resource or capacity to continue it, we'd love if a big organization continue the work we are doing. So I think that's another aspect where the international societies can work. Maybe YPF can inspire other Asian countries and also get lessons from their experience to our work and have a better YPF.
That is so wonderful. I am in awe. I just want to check, does Shamila have anything to add? No? Okay. That is amazing. So that's all the questions from my end. For the people who are watching, if you do have questions, how should we do this? Should they just leave it as a comment below the Facebook post, or is there an alternative way of asking questions?
Usually it works like that, like they ask on Facebook, and like some from Mahpara, who is working on the tech side, like she forwards the question. And okay. Also, if people in the Zoom have any questions, they can also ask.
Okay. So we'll wait for Mahpara. If there are any questions, you can forward them to us. I did have a couple of follow-up questions based on what you've told me. The first one being on the Bangladeshi diaspora. As someone who is Bangladeshi and grew up outside the country and only heard of YPF this year from Abir Bhai, who is very lovely. How large is your diaspora network right now, and how have they been engaged? Because I'm only involved on the editorial side, so I've only seen that part of the committee.
Shamala, if you would love to share, or like I can answer.
Please go on.
Okay. We're trying on that. We are not going to say it's really, really strong. But we have a connection with a lot of Bangladeshi students who are who are studying in different places. In our very core team, we have people from Canada, US, also studying in Australia, New Zealand. So we have this funny saying like YPF never sleeps because there's people from all time zones. So at any given moment, someone's definitely awake. So we are mostly connected with these Bangladeshi students who are mostly born and brought up in Bangladesh and then went to study in different countries. But we're also trying to connect with the diasporas. We wanted to create a global network through YPF, which would be grassroots network, but for internationally. But yeah, we try to do that, and often in different dialogues, we try to engage them in if it needs, like when we talk about FDI or foreign policy or safe migration, we often try to connect people from those countries who have the stakes in it or have the experience. So that's how we try to work.
That's very cool. I have one more question, and we'll see if anyone from the audience has anything. So you mentioned that people from countries like Nepal and Sri Lanka have reached out saying they want to build something similar to YPF. Have you at all been involved in watching them create these organizations, and what has that process been like, watching them start from the ground up and build it from scratch?
It was a good experience. One realization that we had, that all these countries, though all of them are from same subcontinent, have a huge diversity or their differences in problems and the challenges. So the method which worked in Bangladesh might not work exactly the same in Sri Lanka or Nepal. That was a big realization for us. And it was always good to share our knowledge with them and see their vision. And sometimes they have particular interests or particular problems which are different to them. For Nepal, probably like sustainable tourism or something, or different kind of issues. So what we have seen, that their challenges are different. So and it's always a great learning experience from them to see that.
That's really cool. Okay, I know I said I had one last question, but I actually do have one more, and then we'll wrap it up. I found your digital literacy project really, really interesting, especially because you were working in partnership with TikTok, and you're also working with remote areas of Bangladesh. I wanted to ask how you address the unequal distribution of technology in the country, because as you said, Bangladesh, in Dhaka, that's where most of the resources are concentrated. You've mentioned giving internet subsidies, but when you're working with remote communities, how do you address that some of them don't know how to even access or turn on a computer and navigate the web? How are you trying to bridge that gap?
Shamala, if you'd like to answer that.
Yeah, that is a challenge we're trying to navigate. And of course, we try to provide internet allowances for those who are not able to actually access this facility, because this is a luxury for many of our participants who want to learn from the courses or the initiatives we take. But apart from that, of course, there's this gender aspect. In YPF, we have been able to balance this ratio of almost 58 to 60 to 40. And we have in our leadership team, to all the different teams of YPF, we have a good amount of women participation in the teams. And that sort of brings the voice of different stakeholders. And that has been very good to see.
Wonderful. I completely forgot about the gender aspect as well. We actually have a question from the audience. So Does YPF have any plan or program concerning the election that is going to be held at the end of this year? And this question comes from your senior fellow, Farhat Tasnim.
Yes, so that's a very timely question, I would say, because we have just finalized a plan to work on the upcoming election. So what we are planning is we are partnering up with ActionAid, a leading INGO, and we are trying to develop a youth manifesto. This will be a very short manifesto compiling the voices of youth from almost, we're trying to cover as many districts as we can. And we want to compile their ideas and wishes, what they want to see in the manifestos of different political parties ahead of the election. So yes, that is something we have taken up.
That's wonderful. Once again, making politics more accessible to the youth is something I really appreciate, especially given how complicated it can get and how mired in political jargon. So it seems that we don't have any more questions from the audience, so I will take that as our cue to wrap up. It has been absolutely wonderful talking to both of you. Thank you so much. I've learned so much about the organization, and I really, truly mean it when I say I really respect all that you've done for the community, and I really admire how much this organization has managed to achieve just purely based off of the labor of love that its team has brought to the table. It's been an absolute honor talking to you. Thank you for collaborating with the Oxford Society for International Development. And to our audience, I hope you've taken away some valuable nuggets of information and are more motivated and engaged to make a difference in your own local communities. So with that, we will say goodbye to our speakers. Thank you so much, YPF, especially Minhaj and Shamila, and to our tech side, Brandon from OxSID, Mapara from YPF. This would not have been possible without all of you. So thank you so much.